guys, and welcome to another installment of BNL Courtside, where we round up the highlights of this weekend's action. I'm with my main men, Q and Mxolisi. Guys, we had a very, very exciting Week 7 this week.
I think exciting is probably the right word, but maybe a surprising weekend. I think before the weekend started, we kind of had an idea of who we thought were the top teams, or there was results that we thought should have gone a certain way, and I think the surprising team of the weekend were definitely the Vsoozy Royals.
Mxolisi, definitely a surprise was the Mountaineers as well, coming through and shocking all of us.
Well, definitely, KP, the Mountaineers, but we have to talk about what got the Mountaineers to that point. The coaching, a new system in place, and all the players believing in the coach's system, and the coach really earning the trust of his players, and that leading to the Mountaineers really causing probably the upset of the season. But it's just been great, slowly, surely, the playing fields are being leveled. The Limpopo Pride really gave the Suns a run for their money. Yeah. They lost, they got blown out that game, but seeing the competition in the first half from the Limpopo Pride, and also seeing teams like the Windbreakers giving the Marlins a run for their money in the first quarter as well. Watch for next season, these teams will have grown, developed, and learned from this experience in 2015.
You're talking about the Marlins. It's very surprising that we're not hearing the Marlins in this top 4 race, and it's a bit of a surprise for us, don't you think?
I don't think it's too much of a surprise, KP. I think at the beginning of the season it may have been, because again, you're looking at teams on paper, and after your interview with Neo Matiba last week, it was, again, you spoke about teams on paper and what they do when they're on the floor. The Marlins on paper, they look good, but they didn't really gel early in the season. They only got into Coach Craig's structure a lot later in the season, but one thing that I do like about the Marlins is the fact that they've got a strong young presence on their roster. That bodes well for the future, and those players stepped up on the floor against the Windbreakers, stepped up on the floor, made themselves known, and I think that is something that's very encouraging for our league, because the league ultimately also is about developing future talent.
Well, let's have before we come to you, let's have a look at the fixtures and the results from this past weekend. Looking at some of the fixtures there, the Vsoozy Royals were shocked by the Northwest Eagles on Friday. We followed that game up with the Zebras going up against the Mountaineers. On Saturday, we had a great game between the Mountaineers going up against the Vsoozy Royals and taking the mighty Royals down. What a great game that was, and we'll see that a bit later. On Sunday, we had the Eastern Cape Windbreakers. They lost to the Marlins. We had the Limpopo Pride. They lost the game against the Tshwane Suns. That was another highlight of the weekend. The Tshwane Suns keeping it rolling and getting the W. The playoffs have started before the playoffs start.
And it's funny, KP, because I remember I was on the floor doing the interview with Coach Craig, and it slipped my mind that they had only had 3 losses, and he was like, look, we're still in this. And they had belief about it back then, before they knew that this weekend was coming up, and they stepped up. They played well. If you were going to have a good game as a team, they chose the big game to have that good game.
Mxolisi, I don't know if you were as surprised as we were about the Mountaineers coming through and getting that win, but we spoke to Coach Craig before that game actually started, and he had no doubt in his mind that they were going to win that game.
You've got to harken back to the words of Neo Matiba when you interviewed him after they repeated last year's champion. Says, hey, we didn't know we could win. We believed we could win. That's what Coach Craig Daniels said. He said that, we believed that we could pull off this win. We have a system in place. We knew that everyone was going to contribute on the floor. And look, man, they're playing small ball, and they're really applying small ball principles, They're trapping the ball in the full court. They're trapping it in the half court. The ball is popping out. They're forcing turnovers. They're scoring points off the turnovers. They are crashing the boards, and everyone is scoring. And I think that no one is more overwhelmed on that team like Stephen Gabriel, but he's handling it like a mature pro.
Just a quick one, Q, before we check out the highlights. The Northwest Eagles, a team that before the season started, we said had the potential to be in that top 4, and they showed us, unfortunately, it's too little too late, but they beat the Vsoozy Royals.
So yeah, maybe a case for us to have 2 rounds of the season, 24 games, because now you get teams playing in their systems, you get scouting, you get advanced coaching. So, surprising but not surprising. We expected more from that roster, and too little too late, like you said.
Well, guys, that's it from Q. Let's have a look at the highlights for that Vsoozy Royals versus Eagles.
And this is a surprising game, the Vsoozy Royals taking on the Eagles, and at the beginning of the game, out of the on the roster, you'd think that the Northwest Eagles were not favored to start, but what they didn't do well was apply pressure early, and they allowed the Northwest Eagles to start knocking it down from the outside. My man Tabang Glass stepping up comfortably, no contest, making it count.
Definitely, the Royals were in the game as well, just as much as the Eagles were in the game. And Spesihle Maseko with a nifty move, beating two defenders off the dribble and then finishing with a reverse layup, switching hands. And Cyril Shabalala would get going for the Royals as well, and he scored 15 points and grabbing 4 rebounds, 3 assists, and it was just a great all-round performance. And Tsakani Ngobeni bringing the ball down the floor and flushing on the young man Spesihle Maseko. He finished with 19 points, 5 rebounds.
A key stat, I think, as well. 12 lead changes in this game. 4 times the game was tied. It was a tightly contested game throughout, and Tsakani Ngobeni would find joy behind the three-point line, surprisingly consistent for the Royals. He's one of their best three-point shooters right now, and those 19 points, 5 boards, he had 4 of 5 from beyond the arc.
And it was just an all-round performance from all the Royals, but it was a little too short, a little too late. Laki Luate was one of the contributors, 20 points and 1 rebound and 1 assist, but was just one of the players who really contributed well for the Northwest Eagles. They get the W.
I think the stat there, guys, that really stands out is the Eagles hitting those 10 three-point shots after shooting only 5 in the previous 3 games.
That is absolutely the stat that sticks out. Still, they live or die by the 3. There's a prolific amount of three-point shots that they put up, except this time it worked out for them, and that's been the threat all season. A little bit more consistency, and that team is a threat. That team's a top 4 threat.
A change in the coach's demeanor and attitude, and that's why they won. Just had to sneak that in there quickly.
Great game by the Eagles, guys. Now, up next, we had the Doozy Royals going up against the Mountaineers, and that was the shock of the weekend.
This was a must-win game for the Western Cape Mountaineers. Fumani Maranele absolutely posterizing Bruce Latumbha. I think that was the swing moment in the game, because Latumbha would come back in ways that you can't imagine. Bruce Latumbha had 12 rebounds, 9 of those offensive. And that is one of the reasons that the Mountaineers were able to compete. They dominated the offensive glass. They had 23 offensive boards, and that means they got second chance opportunities that they shouldn't have gotten.
And Andre Ongenda contributing, leading in front as the captain. Andre Ongenda, he scored 18 points, grabbed 3 rebounds and 1 assist, and had 1 turnover only. It was just an all-round performance from everyone from the Mountaineers. Stanger really got it together in that game, and he scored 10 points and 3 assists. But the Royals, as much as they were pushing, the Mountaineers with Kyle McLean, that 3 right there was a dagger. The Royals were down 6 at that point, but after that 3, the Mountaineers were up 9, and it was pretty much a go-ahead 3. Sivuile Kavan was also handling and being the facilitator for the Mountaineers in the absence of Sternard Mapurisa.
And something that we should talk about, which was a key moment in the game, was the ejection of Tsakani Ngobeni, and how much this impacted the play on the floor of the Royals. Someone else needed to step up, someone else needed to take scoring responsibility, and I think that was a key moment for the Royals, and they were not able to recover. The Mountaineers deserved winners on the days. They played outstanding basketball. They crashed the board, and the absolute key stat is the offensive glass for the Mountaineers. They had 18 offensive rebounds, and they shared the ball well as well. They had 19 assists.
One of the other big games, guys, was between the Soweto Panthers and the Windbreakers. The Soweto Panthers had to win this game because they are thick in the things for the top 4 position.
Soweto Panthers, again, in an absolute must-win game. That 4th spot absolutely up for grabs. They were obviously favorites coming up against the Windbreakers. Have only picked up 1 win in the competition in the 2015 BNL thus far. What the Panthers did well is they shared the ball. They had 7 players in double figures, and getting it done from the field was Lebisa Selepe in the corner.
And it was just an all-round performance for the Panthers as well. Everyone contributing. Phumzile Panda with a jump shot on the wing, got it to go, and Panda as well getting into the passing lane and the steal, and Luvuko Manana down the floor and finishing. It was an all-round performance for the Windbreakers, but even players like Ateko Kiti finally getting on the board. Kiti finishing with 10 points and 3 rebounds. It was that time that the Panthers were waiting for a contribution from everybody, and Mike Mukumbuta doing what Mike does and finishing with the right-handed flush and just posterizing the windbreakers on that play. Reece Prinsloo with his own two-hand flush, and he would contribute with 9 points. And Tepo Mokgotsi, he's come into his own late into the season with 10 points and 6 rebounds in that game. And man, it was a dunk fest with Money Mike. And Mlonzi can do nothing else but watch. And Tepo Mokgotsi, the exclamation point, rounding out and dominant performance by the Soweto Panthers.
The Soweto Panthers absolutely dominating. They shared the ball well. They had 23 assists. They were 64% from the field. What they did well is they forced turnovers. They forced 32 turnovers from the windbreakers. Madiko was the only player who managed to get into double figures for the windbreakers. He scored 16 points on the day. And it was a credible performance by the windbreakers, but the Panthers just too strong.
And right now, the Panthers sitting pretty, getting that win. Another team that's doing very well for themselves is the Egoli Magic, and they went up against the Rhinos. Let's see those highlights.
The Rhinos have done well against some of the top 4 teams in the league, but from the start, the Egoli Magic imposed their style of play, and it was through the front court. Miguel Ferrao with a breakout game for the Egoli Magic. He came through. He was able to get it done. He's a stretch 4, stretch 5 at 6'9", absolutely outstanding. And Sizo Sambo, although effective for the Rhinos, turned the ball over too many times. He had 8 turnovers in that game.
And down the floor, Tabangwedi with a double pump finish on the break. And the Magic were just doing a great job of just sharing the ball. Jose Salvador in the corner scored very little in that game, but contributed in handling the ball for his team. Vusi Hatebe came off the bench, 7 points, 1 assist, and 4 turnovers, but he was just a great addition for the team. In that instance, Kosnati Festile, 13 points in that game, making things happen for the Egoli Magic. Luyanda Ntsebande would also bring his veteran leadership and experience on the floor, banking in that shot from the top of the key. Bongani Maseko was fighting underneath, banking in with that left-hand hook shot. But at this point, the game was just out of reach. Lesego Molebati, one-hand finish on the break, a nice, nifty move. Dunk on the break and finishing with finesse, but the game was out of reach for the Rhinos. Miguel Ferrao, 20 points, 13 rebounds and 2 turnovers, and all-round performance from the rookie.
The number one stat we should talk about is that 31 assists by the Egoli Magic. What they did well is they gave up the extra pass, and that gave them efficiency on the offensive end. That's why you have 61% from the field. They did struggle a little bit from the perimeter, but I love the style of basketball they played. They were sharing the ball, the extra pass. They looked good in that win over the Rhinos.
And that's it for Saturday's games, guys. We're going to go for a quick ad break, but stay with us. We'll be right back with highlights from Sunday's action, and you don't want to miss the top 5 plays. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to BNL Courtside. I'm your host, KP, and I'm still here with Q and Mxolisi. Guys, we had more games. And the next game that we were going to look at was between the Rhinos and the Warriors. Look, this was a game that didn't really have any playoff implications, but what are the touch points over here that we need to look at? Obviously, now we're going to talk about their chances for next season.
Well, obviously, the Rhinos are looking to build. They've got a nice front court that they can build on. The injury to Marcus Mokwena in that game, I think, a key factor, because he's one of the promising young talents that we have in the league. Bongani Maseko. They have a nice front court as well. You know, Hadebe and the Sambo brothers on the floor for them. And I think they are good. That's a good platform for Mpumalanga going forward. How the Warriors, they need to find a way to get some extra scorers other than Satola and Makabe.
Well, we'll get to Sitola and Matravi just now. Let's talk about the Rhinos coaching. I'm hearing a lot of complaints. Players, people outside are saying, hey man, Andile needs to kind of change his coaching style. What's your take on that?
Well, I think they need to take a page out of the Eagles playbook. Look at what happened on Friday, an improbable win over the Duzi Royals, only because the coach really changed his approach to his players. You know, when I spoke to some of the players, they said, no, we spoke to the coach. We sat down with him and we told him that you need to give us a voice. You need to hear our opinions, because it appeared that the coach just didn't want to hear them. Now with Coach Slobe, it appears that he's easily irritable, it means that every little mistake that happens on the floor, there is going to be punishment. And I think right now that some players sit on the bench after making a mistake, and it's almost like they are in detention and they won't get any playing time because they made a mistake on the floor. There needs to be a change with the way that Coach Hlophe is approaching his players. I read something very, very powerful. Players won't remember what you say to them. They won't remember what you do to them, but they will always remember how you make them feel. And I think that's what's happening with the Rhinos.
Strong words by Polisi. Let's check out these highlights coming through.
It was difficult to call who you think the favorites was before this game, but a good start by the Rhinos. Mokoena getting up the floor, and it was an energetic start, and it was what would lead the Rhinos on the offensive end.
The Rhinos, of course, would welcome back Fiston Mazowa, and he would contribute as well. But it was just an all-round contribution in the first half by the Rhinos, and at some point they were leading by 9 to 11 points, but the problem was letting the Warriors back in the game. And heading to the halftime, the Warriors were fighting back behind vsoozy. vsoozy was just making it rain inside and outside. They were getting a contribution from Molelekwa Makabe. And then don't also forget the young man. I like him a lot. He's a player for the future for the Free State Warriors, Khotso Mahlwane. But in that instance right there, Fiston Mazowa making them pay.
Second half much better than the first for the Rhinos, and Molelekwa Makabe had a great first half, 13 first half points, but would only end the game with 17. Sizo Sambo would come into the game for the Rhinos with 14 second half points, and that would get him the MVP nod, and that was the key factor for the Rhinos. That was where they pulled away, and the Warriors really had no answers in the second half, and that 70 to 52 scoreline doesn't tell the story of how close the game was going into that second half.
18-point lead to close out that game, and it was just a dominant performance by the Rhinos. Coach Hlophe will have some things to talk about over the practice week.
Certainly, while we have a look at the stats, 52 rebounds, 16 offensive for the Rhinos. The Rhinos shared the ball as well. They had 15 assists. And the turnover stats should be a concern for both coaches. 23 and 29, numbers that can come down. The 33% from the field for the Warriors as well. You're not going to win too many games shooting it at 17% from the three-point line, 5 of 30. A bad day at the office for the Free State Warriors.
Bad day at the office indeed, but we rounded off the weekend with the Suns going up against the Pride, and that was an exciting one. Check it out.
Suns and the Pride. This was going to be a fast-paced game, and it sure started out that way. It was exciting basketball. The Suns' offense highly efficient. Manganye blows the dunk up the floor. He would give them a great contribution. 14 points, 4 rebounds, 2 steals for Elias Manganye, and what was a great offensive showing for him.
Malahlela coming into the game and also with his own contribution, but Christian Kabasele, the man of the moment in the first half for the Limpopo Pride, really beating the shot clock, willing them in the first half, hitting big shots, and he would finish the game with the 15 points and 6 rebounds, 4 of 10 from three-point range. But Larry Jackson Jr., a whole lot to handle for the front court, and Somusam Tembu as well, 10 points, 5 rebounds, and that instance right there finishing the alley-oop on the inbounds play.
It was an efficient performance. Musa Mtembo had 4 dunks from his 10 points. He was just really a terror around the rim. Bongi Nkosi also gave them an energy off the bench. 10 points for the diminutive point guard. He speed up the floor, and Mtembo all over our highlights reel in this game. But a player that played really well as well for the Suns, as mentioned, Manganye Motiba, player of the game, 23 points. As the leader and started Mtembo once again. That's the 4 dunks, all 4 dunks from Somusa Mtembo.
It was an all-round performance from the Suns as well, everyone contributing for the win, but you've got to love the effort and the production of Elias Manganye, 14 points. Big things for the young man. A third-year player, there is continuity in the way that he's playing and developing.
One stat that I want to call out, guys, is 20 of 40 from the free throw line. They continue to struggle from the free throw line. It might not hurt them now in games where they blow teams out, but it has come up to hurt them in the big-time games. And that free throw line is a key factor and a key area I think Coach George McKenna needs to look at.
Definitely, especially because they're getting ready for the playoffs, and we know for sure the Suns will be in that race. Now, it's time for the highlight of the show. We're going to check out the top 5 plays of the weekend.
And coming in at number 5, we have Lesego Molobatsi with the exclamation mark, the exclamation dunk, rolling back the years. Lesego Molobatsi getting out, and this was an emphatic dunk to close off a win, an emphatic win for the Magic over the Rhinos.
Great dunk by Lesego, guys. Really turning back the clock on that one, Akyu.
It was really funny. You get Ulisi over here calling Fresno Fresh, so maybe we should do that every time he dunks the ball.
All right, guys, now let's check out number 4.
Well, the number 4 play, Money Mike running into space, and the flush on Mkijima. He couldn't catch up, but Money Mike has just made it a regular habit of just flushing the ball on guys who are just hapless and trying to play defense on him. And hey, you shouldn't challenge Money Mike because he's going to put you on a poster.
Money Mike is definitely going to cash it in, right, Q?
Well, look at it this way, KP. This week, I think served up a lot of facials. I wish I had pictures for every poster because I think this week my series of BNL posters is growing.
All right, guys, there were more facials to come. Let's check out number 3.
And at number 3, Tsepo Mokhosi. Every week he's posterizing the Statue of Liberty dunk, getting up to get down and just leaving the defenders with absolutely no chance of getting that ball.
Well, Lungisa Gola once again being put on a poster last week by Larry Jackson Jr., this week by Tsepo Mokhosi. And Tsepo Mokhosi, of course, doing the opposite of his surname. He's no friend of Gola.
I can't compete with that. Let's check out number 2.
Making a return to our top 5, Sakani Ngobeni, and I don't know what Maseko was thinking coming across, trying to play defense on the much larger Ngobeni. And if we say Molobasi was rolling back the years, what was Ngobeni doing out
the
there?
same thing, right?
And we always see Sakani finishing with the left hand, you know, just seeing that seeing how ambidextrous he is, finishing with the right hand and with authority, power dunk. Don't challenge Ngobeni when he's taking it to the rack.
Don't challenge him, man, but we have got something in store for you at number 1. Check it out.
The doctor shall operate, and Bruce Latumba. I think this guy caught us all by surprise. Fumani skying, Latumba comes across. I thought it was going to be a layup, but Fumani, oh my goodness, you know, he just put it down on Latumba.
Well, the doctor was operating.
He was just doing exactly like his title, man, slicing through the defense and then finishing with a huge flush on Bruce Latumba. And it was just nice, you know, seeing Bruce Latumba getting a taste of his own medicine since he's also in the habit of dunking and putting everybody on a poster. But Fuani Maranele, breakout game, breakout season, late in the season, coming off the bench and really embracing his role. And that right there got everyone alive in the arena.
Well, I mean, at least Mutumba kind of saved face by getting the MVP of the game. So, you know, he did try and, you know, do his thing and come back a little bit, right?
I thought I would say something philosophical, but I think that dunk's going to last forever.
Well, KP, Bruce had 2 dunks in the game, you know, had his own highlight plays, and that's an honorable mention. And I think every week we should just have an honorable mention for all the other great plays that don't make it into our top 5. But hey, it's difficult, and, you know, we always have to cut down the top 5 plays out of all the plays that we have. And kudos to the guys who make the top 5.
Now let's have a look at the fixtures for next week. We're going to have it on Saturday. There are no games on Friday. We have the Northwest Eagles going up against the Windbreakers. And then we have the Doozy Royals. They need to win that game against the Warriors. The Pride go up against the Magic to round up Saturday's action. We're back here on Sunday, though, with the Zebras going up against the Suns. And then we see the Panthers going up against the Mountaineers. That is going to be a big game. Whoever wins that game solidifies their spot. And then we have the Rhinos going up against the Marlins. It's do or die, guys. Panthers and Mountaineers, that is a game that I'm going to be sitting in the stands, actually. I don't know if I'm going to be out here on the court.
This is the best scenario for the league. You want to have a game of this importance this late in the season that has playoff ramifications. When you spoke to Coach Frank Billen, he said it's a quarterfinal. It is a quarterfinal. The team that loses, more than likely, they will not take part in the playoffs. So, you know, this is the time for players to step up. Big-time players make big-time plays, step up when it's necessary.
Odisi, I want to ask you something. Who do you think has the upper hand right now between that Panthers and Mountaineers matchup?
I don't have a clear outright winner in terms of the upper hand, but since Q was talking about the players and what they need to do on the floor, I was just going to say, look out, we've got 2 great coaches coming up against each other, but maybe the Mountaineers have the edge, you know, in terms of the system that they have in place. I think Coach Frank Bellen, he's a first-year coach, still learning the ropes in how everything plays out in the BNL. But Coach Craig Daniels has been in the Western Cape all his life, his whole basketball career. He knows these players. He will motivate them in the right way. Let's just hope that the Soweto Panthers don't rest on their laurels. You know what happened to them against the Doozy Royals and the coach benching all the starters in the third quarter. But let's hope that they pick up from winning ways. The Western Cape Mountaineers have beaten the Doozy Royals. They believe that they can win this game going into the playoffs, and it's going to be very difficult to make them unbelievers.
They have to believe, guys. That's what this game is about. That's why we love the game, and it's a great way for us to end off the regular season. And this is a great way for me to end off the show. Thank you for catching us. BNL Courtside. We'll be back next week.